want to welcome everybody into the State of Michigan podcast. Today we have some big news. I'm here with Jaron. Like always, I want to start this podcast by welcoming my partner in. How are you doing, man?
Doing pretty good. It's been a solid day. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Outside of all my Michigan State conflict I'm going through right now, we're
Oh,
we're we're vibing. Well, what is another year of college, anyways? But we got some big news talking about Michigan State. We also have some news about Michigan with this new schedule release.
hmm
Um, it's very interesting to say the least. We got Michigan State not playing any of our new members that as far as USC and UCLA until 2025, and
hmm
Michigan gets to see
Right.
them year one. So I want to hear your thoughts on this, Jaron, and I guess your
hmm
excitement to
Yeah.
welcome these new teams into the Big Ten.
Well, I think, when you first heard the news, I think it was last year in the middle of the summer, you're kind of like, wow, that's interesting. But, the more it's gotten closer, I mean, it's a cool matchups, and the matchups are always cool. Obviously, the scope of the Big Ten is going to change entirely because bringing these new guys in, they've announced that they're going to get rid of divisions. So the top two teams from the end of the season are going to play each other in the Big Ten championship every year. Definitely adds some more pizzazz to it, but uh, always hurt the bottom tier teams that are trying to get a foot on. But it should be interesting. Obviously, Michigan's going to get quite a taste in 2024. They've got a pretty difficult schedule. They'll be at USC, taking on UCLA at home. Wisconsin was slated on that schedule. Michigan State's obviously on that schedule. They go at Ohio State and I believe Texas to start the year. So it's definitely an interesting thing for Michigan. Michigan State doesn't see USC or UCLA to start, but they will in 2025. They'll face them both as well.
What
But
I,
yeah,
I what I catch more the most interesting about the schedule is seeing that you guys are at USC next year. I mean, not next year, but in 2024.
yeah,
We don't know their quarterback situation after Caleb Williams, but Lincoln Riley does have a long track record of having great quarterbacks up next. So it will be interesting to see. I guess the next quarterback there. We don't have dates for these. I don't think. I think these are just randomly organized based on the graphic we're looking at now. But still, at USC will be very interesting, especially if it's later in the year. It could end up being a very hard game for the University of Michigan, and what could be I don't want to necessarily say a rebuilding year, but it's going to be really hard because you're no longer going to have a guy like Blake Corum. You're going to lose some guys in the draft. You'll still have JJ, but we'll still have to wait and see how his development goes because, in my opinion, JJ still has a lot of developing to do, as we saw in that TCU game. He still needs to clean up some mistakes and show that he can carry the team through rough times, I'll say,
sure.
as we've seen in the past in big games like Michigan State and the TCU game, two of the biggest games he's played in. He's had a tendency to fumble the ball away, no pun intended. So, um, that being said, I am definitely excited for that USC game in 2024, especially since it's on the road. And the UCLA game will be interesting as well because they just lost, for those who don't know, Dorian Thompson in the draft. So we could be seeing UCLA go back to its same old self this year, honestly. And they might be a bottom Big Ten team if they can't get that next quarterback. So how that pans out will be interesting to me as well. So that's kind of what I'm excited to see shape out in all of this.
Yeah, I think it's a like I said, it's a brand new era. It's going to be definitely definitely going to take some getting used to at first because a lot of like you've been so used to this Big Ten for so long and these teams that have been here and how they've played it and how it's been for so long now ever since I've been watching, and now you're adding a whole new era where there's no divisions, there's top two conferences, you're adding two more teams, protected rivalries. It's going to be interesting to see, especially like games like, let's just say, USC coming down to Ann Arbor in late November when it's snowing and it's 11 degrees outside. How that affects those type of teams that are playing because they're playing out west. They're in the warmth. They don't have to really worry about that as much. So that'll definitely be interesting to see. A lot of crazy things can happen. But like we said, it's in 2024 too. This isn't even the next upcoming year; it's the year after. So there'll be the teams that are going to be fielded next year will probably be completely different teams by the time this rolls around, and we'll kind of get a clearer picture of when the games will be scheduled once um, we get closer and closer to that following year. But it's definitely a new direction for the Big Ten. I think it's pretty exciting. I think at the same time it's also a little scary, but because of where the game is headed. But it should be fun. I'm all down for it. Should be a fun time.
I'm actually one of the few people who seem to be excited about this change, and I think one of the reasons I'm excited, and I don't think people see past this, is people are scared to see the rivalries go. But the thing
Yeah,
is, I've seen this coming. They're not getting rid of the rivalries, like Michigan, for example, on the Michigan State schedule, it's protected. Iowa has three protected teams. Michigan has two. Like they are going to protect these big games, so you still have those rivalries, and now you also get to see cool matchups like a Michigan State versus USC every other year. That could become a rivalry like Michigan State and Notre Dame used to be. Um, so
yeah,
it might not be the rivalries some of us grew up watching, like the Michigan State versus Notre Dame or Michigan versus Notre Dame. But
mhm,
these are going to be rivalries our kids are going to remember and they're going to grow up with. And it's just going to be the same nostalgia that we have
yeah.
for our kids. So, like, people are going to get used to it. And I think it's exciting for the game because before this, you didn't really see um, Big Ten teams ever go out west, unless if it was Michigan going out to play Hawaii. Uh, so I think this is very exciting for the game, and um, overall, I think it's good. I think if there's any harm with this new college football, it's not the whole division thing. It's more the transfer portal than anything.
Yeah, I can get that. Yeah, for sure.
S- So I understand the drama around the transfer portal, but as far as the whole new scheduling and expanding, all it does is bring more money to the conferences, um, which all happens to be because they want bigger NIL deals for their players. But um, overall, as far as conference expanding, I don't really think it changes much.
No, I don't think it changes much either. I think it's just one of those things that you got to get used to. Like, for example, I think before the baseball season started, everybody was, oh my gosh, the pitch clock, it's going to be so bad, so bad. And I was one of those people, to be fair. But, since the baseball has started, we've gotten used to that. I kind of like it now. I think it doesn't really affect me much. I went to a game in Cleveland this year. I didn't really notice when I was there, uh, and it's a faster pace of play. It's better, and I think this is one of those things too. You gotta get used to it, and it might take some getting used to, but ultimately we will get used to it. And I think what some other people might be worried about is that, for example, Michigan's going to play Ohio State at the end of the year, probably every year, and there's a chance that they could play back to back. Yes, in some ways that changes the uh, meaningfulness of some of those rivalry games, but how often would you expect that to happen in such a loaded conference? Because you look at some of the teams. Not that it's unlikely that both of those teams are at the top, but more often than not, if one team falls, another team right behind them will take their place, and we probably won't have that issue too much. And I think it'll be good. I think it'll take some getting used to, but once we are used to it, we'll be right there and ready to go.
Yeah, and I think I don't know because even this last year, people were kind of excited to possibly see the rematch. I don't know if anybody is opposed to seeing rematches necessarily because there are like, for example, for that Ohio State game, there's like 3 weeks in between.
Mm-hmm.
But now if you're talking for the Big Ten championship game,
It'd
then
be
I
back to
don't.
back.
That
I don't know
it
if my
would be
heart
back
would
to
take.
back. I guess that could happen. I didn't. I never thought about it really like that.
Yeah,
Um,
my heart.
but that would be pretty hectic.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, that would be pretty hectic. But I guess do you worry about that when it comes to that time? Because it is definitely hard for that to happen when you have a Michigan, Ohio State, and a USC
Hell
in the
yeah.
same division.
Yeah.
Penn State as well. Uh, then with those teams, Wisconsin. gets hot every once in a while. Michigan State gets hot every once in a while. Iowa gets hot every once in a while. UCLA is. So there's these other teams that are going to be like wild card
Right.
teams that will join those big four every once in a while. That will make it difficult to happen. Um, I'd say my biggest concern as of now is how the bowl games are going to work. Now, granted, we are getting a little bit rid of this whole bowl scenario slowly but surely
Yeah.
with this playoff picture, but like before, the Rose Bowl is the best Big Ten versus the best Pac-12, but now you have Pac-12 with the Big Ten, and the Pac-12 is shrinking and it's kind of looking bad.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, well, can you somehow find a way to make it still the best of the original Big Ten, and then if USC's the best, if they like would be the best of the Pac-12 if they were over there, put them in the Rose Bowl, like find a way to still
Yeah.
like normalize it to like the normal teams that would be put in it, and just like group them up like that. It'd be difficult, but I think we're getting to a point where some people might not be a fan of this, but they're gonna put the teams in the playoffs. You're gonna have those home games and those normal bowl games as those championship games. And I think the rest are just gonna be paired up mostly by rankings, and just they're gonna be like, you know 15, 20 seed play good game. I think it's gonna be less about what conference you're in.
Yeah,
Granted, I
maybe.
don't I don't think they'll put teams from the same conference in them. I don't think they'll go
Uh,
that far. But as far as this bowl game's an SEC versus ACC only, I think they might slowly get rid of that.
no, I'd agree with you. I think it's going to be more about ranking, and because we are moving into a completely new era, like I said, with this new Big Ten, there's going to be a new SEC because Oklahoma, Texas is joining them. It's going to be probably more of, like you said, a matchup thing, and with the 12-team playoff as well, it's going to make a lot of you know regular season interesting too. So a lot of mix and matching, moving, and we can only know the more you get into it. Like we're not going to know how stuff's going to be 1 year into it or even 2 years into it. But before we know it, we're going to be like 5, 6 years into this thing, and we'll know how they schedule bowl games and how they do things, how the committees do things, and it'll definitely be an interesting time. I'm excited about the expanded playoff because it gives you more wiggle room, especially in these bigger this bigger conference, especially for the Big Ten and the SEC teams, more more room for losses, right? Because they're going to
Yeah.
be harder schedules. Like maybe you can lose 2 or 3 games and sneak in as a top 12 team, but that's only something that we're going to have to wait and see whether and how they judge those type of teams. But I think this new era that we are heading in, it'll be different, new, exciting. I wasn't on board with a 12-team playoff. We're going to have expanding conferences like this. I think that's the best solution for it. If we had the conferences as they were, I was more of a fan of the 8-team playoff. But 12-team, I think, works with the system and where the college football is headed right now.
Yeah, I will say I'm a fan of the 12 man because it still rewards the top four. Um,
Yeah, although I will say that the only thing I'm not a huge fan of is obviously the first round, which is the lower seeds, is a campus game, which is awesome for those atmospheres. But
yeah, the campus game is awesome.
I still think they should move the campus games even into that second round where the top four get the buys, right? I still think you should be rewarded with a home field advantage if you're in a top four seed. Because right now, as it sits, it'd be the outer brackets get the home field advantage, the top seeds, and then they go into play a team in a neutral site. I don't think it's fair for if you've done really well, get a top in your conference, and
You just
then
don't get
have
a
to
home
play
game.
yeah, have to play a team that's coming in with momentum in a neutral site. I think that's and I know they're doing it for money reasons or whatever, but I still think that those
Yeah,
teams should earn at least a home game, and then you can move into the bowls through the normal
yeah.
traditional.
That's where I wish they would take a page out of the NFL's book. But you're right, it is completely about money, so they're not gonna do that.
I wish they did.
Yeah, but they're
They won't.
just
You're
there.
right.
Yeah, there's just no doing it. They're
Uh,
stuck on this idea of I still want all this bowl game money, but I want a more fun playoff for people to watch. And they just don't know how to sacrifice a little bit for the
Yeah.
audience. But that being said, I do want to touch on this wasn't originally on on the schedule to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
but they're planning a boycott for the
Oh,
EA Sports college football game because they're trying to pay the players only $500, I believe it was.
I know.
Um, and the players are not for that. And I
It's like
saw
the
your tweet. I saw your tweet. You were mad at the players for not taking $500 each. And I understand from a college football point,
mm-hmm.
why they can only offer $500 each, because you're talking about probably like,
A bunch of players.
even if you're talking about just the active players, so you might be talking about like 53 people. I'm just going off NFL standards. I don't know what it is for college. So I'm just
Yeah.
going to say 53-man roster. So like 53 people across like, how many are on the D1 rankings? Like 100.
121 or something, 128 or something like that. Maybe
So
a little more.
128 times that by 53 and then times that by 500. Someone can do the math. I know it's a lot of money. Uh,
Yeah, it's
and
in the millions.
And that doesn't even count. I mean, once you get your system going, maybe it won't cost as much, but the production of the video game and
Mm-hmm.
paying people to do the commentary and actually getting the video game out, getting it advertised. That's definitely a lot of money spent on a video game.
Yeah.
So the players thinking they can get more money out of it, they're gonna have to come up with a poll, like like almost like some sort of system that's like, okay, if you're a top 10 ranked team, these players get paid this much because you're going to be the face of the video game. But if you're like Hawaii, nobody's like buying it for you, you're getting this much. Like, there needs to be like some sort of grid,
I mean,
basically,
maybe.
by
But I think a
like
lot of
how
people
they
are just
place. But what I'm saying is these players can't just get a flat rate. Because
yeah,
not each player is equal in this video game. But that's also very hard to do. So I think the boycott overall is stupid.
I do too.
The players deserve to get paid more. But at the same time, I think the players will get paid based on how they produce for the video game. For example, if you ball out like Robert Griffin III did, and your face is on that cover of the video game, then you're
Probably get
getting
more.
paid because they're using your face to market this video game.
Yeah.
But like for any random, University of Toledo player who might be upset because he's only getting $500, go cry me a river. You play in the whatever conference,
The Mac.
the MAC. I wanted to say the pack. So you play in the dang MAC. Nobody's playing it for you outside of people from Toledo. Um, and that's just the harsh truth. So
Yeah, I get that, but I think also a lot of people are just happy with the 500 too. I think a lot of the people that are like upset about it would be those like bigger athletes. I don't think it's fair to just boycott the whole thing and ruin it for about what would probably be about 95% of the athletes would be like, all right, give me the $500. I'm fine with that. So, I think the boycott's dumb. I've said it. Just like be happy. You're getting free college and a bunch of money anyway. So what's $500 that you're getting?
yeah, but some of them, honestly, I don't think it's the bigger athletes. I think it's the athletes like, for example, it's the athlete that plays at Ole Miss that's a good player but doesn't get any recognition because he plays for Ole Miss. Like, I think it's that athlete.
Okay, well, you're
Like,
still getting
I'm
free
not
college.
getting a bag for NIL. Yes, I'm getting free college, but I'm still not making the bag, and I might be a sixth round pick, but I'm not getting recognition, but I deserve a bag, kind of thing. So it's like they feel like they deserve more, but they're kind of like stuck in the middle.
Yeah, you're right. Cry me a river.
But I do think they have the right to boycott.
Yeah,
Um,
still.
but they need to find a way to endorse them better. I don't think this is a football problem. I think this is getting all players endorsed equal. And usually what I'd say is hit the gym and play better football.
Amen.
Like go make your team something special. If you want to make a difference as far as your paycheck goes. But it is an interesting situation because you don't see this in the NFL, and I'd be
Mm.
curious to know if how much they get paid for Madden,
I
but I
don't know
don't think
that
they
they get
get
paid.
paid. I think
Yeah,
they just know that they get paid in their contracts, and that just kind of counts
yeah, I don't think they
since
get
they're getting
paid.
paid directly.
Yeah.
So that's one thing I just got interesting. I want to touch on because I know a lot of people are invested in that video game, and I'm starting to get convinced it might never come out. So
I know for real. We've been waiting so long. Just give us the game. I don't care if it's QB5.
I just know it's been like 10 years of me having to pull out a PS2 just to play some college football. So, going back to those now, bro, you realize how bad the graphics used to be.
Exactly.
It's like,
For
holy
real.
crap. And the movement, terrible. But I want to move on to our next segment. Um, we have some Michigan basketball news. You informed me about a new recruit Michigan landed. They're trying to fix this basketball program over in Ann Arbor. I like to think it's unfixable, but
Hmm.
give me your best sales pitch, Jaron. Who is this new recruit, and why should we maybe have hope?
Well, I wouldn't go as far as to say hope, but I will say it is a step in the right direction. They just got a commitment from it was the Tennessee transfer. I'm gonna butcher this name, Olivier Kamahawa or something like that. I tried, guys. It's hard, but he's a power forward. Average 10.8, 5 and 2 in points, rebounds, and assists. 51.3% shooter from the floor. Um, it's definitely a big thing for depth because obviously Michigan was looking at just Terrence Williams out there, and now you're gonna have another big guy because obviously you lose Hunter Dickinson, and it's good to have a tall, lengthy guy, high shooting percentage. Obviously, numbers aren't like crazy out the charts or anything, but averaging a 10-point type of guy who can pick up 5 rebounds, a couple assists will definitely help. As far as everything else is concerned, they have a couple other um, commits that they got in the I think it was a couple months ago that they announced as well today, officially being there. Trey Jackson, who's a forward, and Amari Burnett, a guard from Alabama. Those are both more depth pieces than anything. Like Namari Burnett is a guard, but we've already got, I believe Llewellyn's going to be back next year as well, on top of Doug McDaniel. But Burnett averaged 5.62 and zero point 0.7 assists per game, so makes you wonder. And then Trey Jackson, another depth piece as a forward, 6.5, 2.2, 0.2, a 46.8% shooter from the floor. Will be interesting to see how they fit into Juwan's. I know Michigan needed at least somebody, and they got that guy from Tennessee. And it was big because the moment where they were, they had lost out on him, and I remember Michigan Twitter being in a riot, rightfully so. And all of a sudden, he was back in the mix, and then he committed. So I don't know what Juwan did to get him to commit to Michigan, but I'll
Give
take
him a
it.
bag.
Give him a bag, give him all the bags. But you know,
It's the only way to do it nowadays.
he's not like the end all be all savior type of player. But I think if anything, it gives you more stability to work with some of the guys that have been in this program for a year or two now, and hopefully mix in. I think it doesn't make them any type of contender by any means, but it makes them better than what we talked about last time, right? We talked last time
Which
we were
we last
talking,
time, yeah, last time we were talking, last in conference, maybe better than Minnesota.
and now we might be
Might be better
NIT
than Ohio
material.
State.
Yeah, we might be NIT material now. You
Um,
never know.
I do want you to touch on for anybody who might not be so familiar with Michigan's basketball program right now.
Mhm.
Maybe they want to learn more about Michigan's basketball program and the state of the program. As of now, what do you think their starting five shaping out to be if the season were to start here in the next week? What would you expect? Not necessarily like purely what you think. I mean, clearly
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
season so far away might not be accurate, but purely off what you would think.
Oh, let's think. Oh, that's a tough question. But if I were to go with, obviously, I had your point guard, your starting point guard be Doug McDaniel. Uh, would I do two guards? You could probably get Llewellyn in there as well. Probably Terrace Reed. Will Cheddar would probably be somewhere in there, and probably this new Olivier from Tennessee. Mixing in some of the guys coming off the bench would probably be Terrence Williams, the guard Burnett from Alabama, and Trey Jackson. So those are your three guys off the bench. But rounding out the starters, I'd say would be Doug McDaniel, Jalen Llewellyn, Terrence Reed, Shedder, and who did I say? The new guy, Olivier.
And what about Caleb Love? Oh wait,
Yeah,
I forgot.
that'd be nice
I
to
was just
have. I'm
playing.
not gonna lie.
I was just playing with everyone, but they got some work to do, but they're a
Yeah,
step in the right direction. We'll see if Howard can just get the train moving.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think any sort of noise about possibly making the tournament will get him another year just because of what he's playing with this year.
yeah. That's true.
Um, so we'll see. If it's a complete disaster, I see him out of town. But if he can make this team, be something, be talked about as like a first four out or first four in, or I mean not first four in, but um, what's it called? Last four in. um,
Mhm.
if he can be in that area, he has a good chance at getting another year bought. Uh, and yeah, I'm excited for next basketball season. This could be a very interesting year.
Yeah, I bet you're gonna
Um,
be.
not just as a Michigan State fan, but as well as getting to watch this Michigan team, because I am curious to see how this whole Howard thing shapes up. Because
Yeah,
I have been a decent Howard hater, but now I'm kind of curious if he can turn the ship. If he can turn the ship, I will have gained a lot of respect for him,
me
for doing
too.
so.
Me too.
So, that doesn't mean I think he can, but if he does it, I'll be very impressed.
Yeah, for real.
But then I'd be more impressed on how he somehow let the thing fall apart in the first place.
Oh, I tell you how he let it fall apart. I mean, it's a bunch of I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna leave. His own kid dipped on him. That's messed up.
Which gives me no faith. But you know what? If his own kid dips on him and somehow he can make your guys' president believe, your guys' boosters believe that there was nothing wrong with the organization, then maybe he has something up his sleeve.
Please, I beg.
I do I do want to touch on this. Detroit Lions fans are gonna, they're gonna love this story. I saw I saw a tweet. And you guys know how accurate tweets can be sometimes. They can be all over the place. But I saw a lot of big Lions accounts, quote tweeting it and whatnot. And it seemed like real buzz and it seemed like a real report. So I wanted to talk about it. Maybe it's been killed by this point. I haven't really looked into it since I saw it, I want to say this morning or maybe yesterday. But I have seen a lot of news around Jamo's name and his suspension. And I want to hear what you guys think about this in the comment section, so let me know. But the news about Jamo's suspension was that he was originally suspended for 6 games because of gambling in a team facility. Which immediately people are like, okay, so he was in the locker room placing bets after practice. Why is this stuff going on inside the clubhouse? Like even if it is allowed, like you should be locked in, working out, all that stuff when you're in the clubhouse. You do the rest of the shit at home, at restaurants, hanging with the boys, kind of thing. But report came out that Jamo decided to place a bet at a hotel that the team so happened to be paying for, so it counted as a team facility when it was not even located in the state of Michigan.
Hmm.
So a lot of buzz around this. A lot of fans mad, of course. Makes complete sense to be mad. It doesn't really make sense because at the end of the day, if I call up the Holiday Inn and ask them if the Detroit Lions own that facility, they're gonna hang up the phone. So the idea that it's an NFL facility doesn't really make sense to me, even if it was being paid for. Might be interesting to know if this bet was paid in the room or in the lobby, because the Lions paid for the lobby, not. I mean, the Lions paid for the room, not the
Yeah.
lobby. So there's just so many questions around this. And
Mhm.
even if he was in the room, it's kind of bullshit
Yeah.
Um, and they are doing a new round of these suspensions on gambling, and it's taking a really long time. And I can't help to think that there are a bunch more of these situations of like, what's next? The team paid for dinner, and they did it at the dinner table. So there's just so much, and I'd like to see Jamo appeal on this. He said he wasn't going to, but
Yeah.
at this point, it's kind of ridiculous. I feel like I want to know what you think, but this whole thing just seems like it's just a shame because
Uh-huh.
his start to the NFL has already been cut short due to an ACL,
Hmm.
and then the team being on a roll, so they didn't want to just throw him in the fire, and now the NFL is throwing this bullshit of a 6-game suspension at him. For all we know, this happened when he tore his ACL, like when he wasn't even playing yet. Like it's just a little horseshit. So let me hear your opinions on this.
Well, they don't call it the no fun league for nothing, right?
Exactly.
I think if there's any truth to the story, you got to be like, all right, come on, like what are we doing here? What are we allowing versus what are we not allowing? I mean, a lot of it, like we talked about it a lot last podcast. I'm not gonna get too deep into it, but a lot of it's just dumb anyway. I don't think it's particularly anything crazy. I mean, it's not like he's betting on the NFL games. He's betting on college or whatever he was betting on, and
He's betting on his alumni,
yeah,
like
I mean, it's
alma
like that's
mater.
dumb. It doesn't matter. It's redundant. It's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with. I mean, I can see if you're like betting on NFL games or something, but who cares about betting on a college baseball game or whatever it was? Um, I mean, even like the whole mojo. They're trying to bring the Lions mojo down. I feel like because even the reporters were asking Goff. I remember seeing this on Twitter as well. Uh, about if he even likes JMO or something. I'm like, what kind of
They said, how do you feel about Jamo liking Lamar Jackson tweets? Some
yeah.
bullshit. And you remember what he said?
Said something about like I like JMO, so he can like Lamar or whatever.
He,
I like JMO.
he said, "There's wide receivers I like, but I also like Jamo, so I don't really
Yeah,
care." Or some shit like that.
yeah.
Like,
It's like, what are they doing here? They're trying to bring him down. They don't want to see the Lions succeed. That's what it is.
it is getting ridiculous because it's all these reporters, all this like the head of the NFL, and like these people that like work directly with the NFL. But then you go to the ESPN, the media, they don't work directly with the NFL. They're all hyping the train up, but it's like
Yeah,
these dumb. Oh man, I don't want to be rude, but I try to keep it polite, but these just reporters, it's like they're like Fox News and CNN. They only know
agree.
how to make storylines that spread hate and drama. They don't want good vibes. Good vibes don't get clicks. So
That's
they
true.
try and just bring all this negative energy. It's really what's wrong with this freaking world. Everybody, they see something that they don't agree with and they're like, "What the heck is this BS? Let me read this article so I can be angry." If there's something if they see an article they agree with, they're like reading the title a little bit, they scan it and they're
They
like,
love
"Ah,
it.
cool. That's cool." But, you know, they fume over the stuff that they don't agree with, and then people start talking, and it's really what drives so much of humanity, and it's crazy. And
Yeah,
that's what
definitely.
these reporters do. They just come up with the biggest like BS. Like all of Jamo's and Golf's like crap is just insane. Like,
Yeah, that's dumb. It's all dumb.
but I do want to hear what everybody thinks about this whole situation. It's definitely interesting.
Hmm.
I also wanted to talk about one other thing. Talking about JMO, there's been some talks about his drop problem in practice, but there's also been a lot of fears around how Golf's been playing in this training camp, throwing some picks and all that. And I think we touched a little bit on this,
Yeah,
but
we did.
I wanted to touch on it in a little bit of a different light than I think I did before. Um, I think more people need to be thinking less about how Goff is playing and how this defense might really be taking the next step. We saw them last year go from the 32nd defense to playing at like average like
Mhm.
15th through 20th by the end of the year. I feel comfortable saying they were 15 through 20 defense by the end of the year. They added a bunch of talent. Maybe we should really be looking at this defense. Like maybe they are playing a top 10 unit in practice. They added a bunch of talent on the side. They added Cam Sutton, a number one corner, ranked like 27th according to PFF, something like that. CJ Gardner Johnson, borderline Pro Bowler, 6 interceptions in like, I want to say like 12 games. Absolute baller. Kirby Joseph in his second season, his sophomore season, due for a breakout. Tracy Walker, he's not practicing yet, but he's just gonna make practice harder once for golf once he's back. Um, you got some new guys playing linebacker. You got Campbell out there, Malcolm sophomore. I think they're Houston. Don't forget about Houston. Second year, you know, had like the second most sacks from a rookie, and he only played in like 7 games. He didn't start playing till like Thanksgiving, which is crazy for the amount of sacks he had. Um, so I think we should be focusing more our attention on how possibly this defense might be like, I
Good.
don't know, top 10. Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Like this defense, we underestimate this defense just because the offense may have their struggles as well as naturally. You need to stop worrying about the offense struggles. The offense is going to try running new wrinkles. I know they preach the fundamentals right now,
Mhm.
but
It's
Goff's
early.
going to be tried doing stuff that normally you wouldn't do to kind of see what he can get away with.
Yeah.
Um, but no, I really just wanted to focus on, the defense. I think the
Yeah.
defense might be coming together better than what people may have expected this early in the year.
Yeah, that's fair. Plus, it's early. I mean, there's a lot of intangibles. There's no reason to look too far into it. Once the season starts, then we can start judging. We're not there in practice. We
Yes.
can start.
Well, once we see, and I don't even want to hear judgment come week 1. Once
Exactly.
week 3 hits, once week 4 hits, that's when people can start overreacting to how good the team is or how bad the team is. Like
Exactly. No reason
that.
to.
No, you go.
No, it's all right.
Oh well, I was just gonna say that's when people can start reacting to the ups, the downs, the in betweens, and the roller coaster
Yeah.
all.
Yeah, but speaking of
Roller
roller
coasters.
coasters, yeah.
We got the Detroit Tigers going down the big steep hill.
Wow.
Going down that millennial. No, what is the roller coaster at Cedar Point? Millennium.
The Millennium Forest.
Yeah, going down that steep hill. Cause or even the dragster. It's like the
Yeah.
dragster. 500 was like the peak, and then it was all downhill,
Oh my
downhill super
gosh.
fast. Um, and then they closed the ride down. Maybe we should close the Tigers down, honestly.
I know
Well, I mean,
last
we are going to be closing down Erod and Riley Green here soon. So, uh,
yeah,
oh, this team,
uh
it's bad.
I know.
Um,
I know. Last episode we talked about how you know what, if they can hold their own, if they can play well without Riley Green, kind of just hold on. Maybe with this division being as bad as it is, they'll be all right. Which honestly, the Twins have just started dropping like flies in losses. So the Tigers are still 3.5 games out. But
are they actually?
yes,
I have not been paying attention. I've just seen us losing.
oh, it's not been pretty. Like
What
if
are
the
the
Tigers,
Guardians doing?
they're winning a little bit more now, so they're starting to creep up to
Are
first.
they
Which
passing us? Did they pass us? I
yeah,
assume.
we're in fourth now. The White Sox passed us.
Damn, so everyone fell apart.
Mm,
Besides the Guardians and the White Sox. They're like maintaining.
yeah. So here's the issue. We talked about how the offense this year had been doing a pretty good job to the point before Green got hurt. And since that injury, I don't know what happened. And look, I know Green's a good player,
I
but
know what happened.
since Green got hurt, nobody can hit. It's like everybody's allergic to hitting. Like the past 3 days against the Phillies, I've gotten a text message the first game, Tigers are getting no hit. The second game, Tigers are getting no hit. The third game, Tigers are getting no hit. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I mean, some of the averages. Bias is betting 220. Torque is down to 223. Haas is fallen all the way back to 213. Scope is just not is laughable at this point at 196. Riznik's come in, done nothing. He's batting 167. Nevin is he's barely a pro ball player, and that's not even counting for guys like Ibanez and whoever else it may be down there. Even Miggy this year hasn't been that good. So what they've been doing is just not hitting the ball. It's that easy. And their pitching's been pretty solid through the losing stretch. They've allowed less than 3 runs in most of those games. Um, 2 games under 3 or under 4 runs against the
What you're
Phillies.
telling me is they decided to start pitching once the bats went away.
Exactly. I mean, 1 for 48 the last 6 games for the first 3 innings. 1 for 48. That is awful. And I watched a little bit of the White Sox series. I was following the Phillies series, checking in periodically, checking box scores, checking uh, at bats, and it's just almost unbearable. Like we started the season bad, and it feels like that again, but even worse. It feels like worse than last year. Like this offense, and it's not Hinch's fault. The players the Tigers are working with right now are bad players. Like even guys that were doing good are no longer doing good. Like McKinstry, not doing good anymore. Not drawing as many walks, not getting hits. At least he's not striking out. But when you got guys like Baez swinging at balls 50 feet across the plate, you're not going to do well. And I think, the only thing the Tigers can do at this point is get a friend. Like, send 2, 3 of these guys down and call up somebody. Sometimes you just need something new, like a spark, anything different to help this offense or help this team find itself. Because they even had the lead. They were losing 1-0 most of the game, getting no hit. They found the lead, and then Lang blew it in the ninth. That's just a team that's struggling, and I think they need
Dang.
they
Lang
need
doesn't do that
somebody.
often.
Exactly, which means just things are just falling apart. I think they've hit rock bottom, and I think that it's not going to hurt to call up anybody that's doing well. Even like Kerry Carpenter's coming along; he'll be back up eventually,
That'd be
and
big.
just anything. You need a spark, and I think now's the perfect time to say, "All right, Nevin Ibanez, I'm DFAing Scope. I'm sending, like I said, sending Nevin down. I'm sending maybe who else would I send down? Maybe get rid of Ibanez, send him down. Call up like 2 or 3 guys. What's the worst that happens? You continue to suck like you have been. I mean, it doesn't get any worse than it has. I mean, Baez is 4 for 26 and since Green got hurt. Torque's 4 for 24. I mean, those aren't good numbers. Those are your good players, quote unquote, right now. So, ugh, it's been all downhill.
I would like to see. I know this isn't going to happen now. You can't move it at this fast of a pace.
Mm-hmm.
But Colt Keith has been
Colt Keith,
lighting it up in Double A. I'd like to see him get moved up to Triple A.
at least.
Give him a month, see what he's doing there. Maybe he's hitting 250. If that's the case, keep him in Triple A. Let him just get accustomed to Triple A. But if he keeps lighting it up after
Yeah,
a month in Triple A, hitting 300, maybe he gets another 4 to 5 home runs in that month. Call him up. Like, what's the worst that's gonna happen?
that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
um, I don't think it's gonna ruin a player's confidence if he struggles in the at the top. I think it's just will help them get accustomed. Some players just need to play against the pitching to really get over the hump. I don't think staying at a level like the Double A and just continuing to thrive. I think it eventually gets to the
Mm-hmm.
point where
Like, come
you're
on,
not
sign me up.
learning anything more. You're just, facing the same caliber of players, and you're gonna keep the same averages. Almost no matter at what level, you're not exceeding a four. Like I don't know what his batting average is. I know he's been going off, but just like in general, you're not gonna exceed like over 350 batting average every once in a while. You're gonna hit a line drive to center field and it's gonna get caught, or like not every plate appearance is gonna be bombs at that level. Um, but he's definitely been balling. So I'd like to see him go to the AAA, see what he can do for a month. Um, Scott Harris can make the decision from there. Do we bring him up? Because I do know last year it took way, 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 way too long for them to bring up Kerry Carpenter.
Hmm.
Way too long. He was balling. He came up finally. He brought a spark to the team at the end of the year. Um, I'd like to see that be the same story for Colt Keith. I think Kerry started with Double A last year. Am I right?
I think he might have served. I don't really, I
I'm
don't
pretty
remember.
sure he started with Double A last year.
He might have.
Um, but I want to see Colt Keith bring that same spark, but I don't want to wait till August to see it. Um, so I think right now is a good time to do that. You could send guys like I don't know. We have so many guys we need to send down. You can send some of them
Nevin
down
Ibanez,
back to
DFA's
Double A.
gold. I mean,
Like you
frick.
can figure it out. So, and you need Colt Keith plays. Oh, I want to say short, but I'm not even sure about that. He might play outfield. I'm not even sure what
I don't even
position.
care. I mean, we
I
have
don't
Zach
really care
Short playing
either.
center field.
We can plug him in literally anywhere, outfield,
Exactly.
infield, whatever. All I know is he has a bat and we need it.
Ah,
So
we need anything for real. Like these guys that we have right now just aren't going to get it done. And if you're going to keep throwing them out there night to night basis and expect different results, it's just not going to happen. So I'm fully for bring up some guys that want to be up here, want to have a spark, want to do well because some of these guys are just going through the motions. I mean, you see their at bats and you're just like, what are you doing?
I'm starting to think the organization needs to have a sit down conversation with Austin Meadows and be like, all right, you need to tell me the real problem. Are you
Yeah,
not playing because you don't want to play as a Tiger? Or are you not playing because this thing's serious? Because, mental health is serious and all. But,
100% agree.
like,
Come on, we need to know. We need to
what,
know.
I guess, what job allows you 2 years to sit out 2 years because of mental health? And I don't want this to sound cruel either, but
I get what you're saying.
in my opinion, like in my experience with anxiety, it's always been better to have I guess things to do to keep your mind off of things than to just sit at home and, continue to think whatever thoughts or whatever might be in
Hmm.
his head, whatever anxiety he's dealing with, and just fight that all day. Now, who knows? Maybe he's sitting around therapists 24/7, fighting whatever he's fighting.
Yeah,
I can't really answer that. I don't know
we
what he
don't. We
does,
just don't know.
but but the organization needs to know and they need to move forward. It's a business. There's no business in this world outside of the MLB apparently that lets someone leave work for 2 years and continue to pay them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough scenario because we don't know what he's dealing with, but you do have to have the talk because he could like a bat like him, he's a pretty good player. Like he could really help this team and I don't know what he's going through. If it's really bad, all the best to him, but we need to know whether or not just like, all right, we need to move on. Cuz you know, he's either going to play for us or he's not going to play for us. It's just something we need to know, and obviously we got not a bunch of help in the minor league system. I mean, we're making some minor trades here and there, nothing that's going to be groundbreaking. A lot of cash consideration trades right now, but we need help. This offense is as bad as I've seen it in a very long time. That's even after I've watched last season. So,
Something I am wondering, and this is just gonna be like one of the last things I bring up about the whole Austin Meadows thing is there any chance the Tigers are scared to ask really what's going on and get full details and move forward, knowing that they have his brother on the squad and not wanting to ruin anything there as well?
mm, it's always tough. Obviously, behind closed doors, they might know something, they might not know something, but um, it's definitely interesting. I mean, I don't know whether or not, like, I don't even know if the Rays knew about this when they traded him to us.
Hmm.
Because there were some theories out there, like the Rays had to have known because they got rid of him. We got rid of it was Paredes. I don't know if anybody else is involved in that trade. I do forget, but
It was Paredes, and I think it's a second round pick.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't know if the Rays knew anything about it, and I don't know if he's continued to have these issues for a while. And if it's even something now that we know about as an organization, or if he's just closed about it, or what it is. I mean, I think it's important. I'm sure they've had those talks because as bad as it's been right now, I'm sure they're like, "How are you feeling? Is that and the other?" I don't know. It's more on him to disclose that information. We'll never know as casual fans or anybody. It's gonna stay behind closed doors, kind of like a lot of what the Eduardo situation was last year.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's interesting. I would really like him to come back. I really thought he was a good player. He's an asset to the team, and right now, uh, ugh, it's just things are going south very quickly. And you
yeah.
know, it
I'm
even so,
hoping
even
I'm hoping for the best for him. And honestly,
Mhm.
that is one thing. This is the year that the Tigers are clearly still figuring it out.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I mean, this was kind of my mentality last year, with the struggles this year. I'm gonna keep the same mentality. I want him to get right. I really do. I don't want anyone, to have to go through those mental battles alone. I want him to get the support he needs and to, you know, get over the hump that he's fighting, and really get better. And the hope is that he can come back ready to go next year. But then I guess the main concern is, okay, if you find yourself after 2 weeks of the season next year and you're in the same position, like, all right, what do you do at that
Yeah,
point?
yeah, we're really gonna have to see. I mean, like I said, we'll see what the Tigers do. I really hope they can make some moves, but that's on the organization. That's on Scott Harris. Only
Hmm.
time will tell. I mean, if they can turn it around and get back to even playing 500 ball, they're still right in it. But I don't hold my breath for any of that right now. I think we're about to go through that slide where the realization happens. Uh,
For
Mark it
sure.
out. June has not been a good month.
No, it has not been. But that's all I really have to say on the Tigers right now. We'll
Same,
see
same.
where they stand in another week if they can turn it around. Get more news on Eduardo and Riley here in the coming weeks. Hopefully, we get new news on Eduardo. Um, and maybe we're gonna be cooking up some trade packages here in the near future,
Yeah, for sure.
because he's definitely gonna be a hot commodity on the market if the Tigers continue to
Ball.
keep slipping. So,
Yep.
that being said, I want to thank you guys for tuning into this podcast.